Hey guys, Kevin Cage back with another cryptocurrency update. Welcome to the channel. Like and subscribe if you're serious about the digital asset space, and let's get right into it today. One take and uncut. Guys, this video is another must-see. Ripple Rant number 5. I'm going to go include some news and basically just put together some of these puzzle pieces that we've been given. So to kick things off, I'll try to make this quick for all of you. So right here, Spiro. So Japanese governments, guys, as we know, Japan is one of those early adopters along with Singapore and these other kind of fintech hubs, really. Now, or fintech, I should say, hotbeds. Now, the Japanese government calls for faster adoption or fast adoption of CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. And again, this gentleman, Spiro, at @O_rips, must follow on Twitter here and also highly recommend his YouTube channel. So you guys can probably just type in Spiro as well. So essentially, guys, what I wanted to show is this. Regulators in Japan and different officials are saying we must protect the role of a unit of account no matter what. If Japan does not issue a digital currency and people in the world use other digital currencies, the Japanese yen will be forgotten and lose its sovereignty. So you have to see the pressure on from basically a domestic standpoint of, this incentive to go digital ASAP. Another gentleman just tagged me. Restaurants are basically urging people to use debit and credit cards rather than cash to mitigate spread of infection. Personally, I, don't completely buy it, but I can get it to a point. So again, this gentleman right here, he noted that the digital yen, now this is an interesting perspective, but we have to kind of entertain this, can act as an intermediary or intermediate currency between other digital currencies. So for example, if Google, Apple, Facebook, and Amazon, right, so as we can see, GAFA, issue their own native tokens, their walled gardens, they will be used within a certain framework and will not interact with each other. So the problem is this, there's still friction between these payment networks, and that is where Interledger Protocol basically comes in. The whole basically fundamental foundation protocol for the Internet of Value. And I know many of you are sick of hearing about this, but you have to understand how many years did it take for the Internet to develop all of these protocols until they were truly used, and then we had this type of Cambrian explosion for the masses. So he believes that the central bank digital currency will help fill this gap, and it will be much more convenient for customers. And I absolutely agree with this sentiment. So again, talking about, store of value, medium of exchange, must be controlled by the government. I didn't say I believe with that, but I just wanted to share, again, medium of exchange and store of value. All right, and otherwise, people will forget about the traditional fiat currency. And this is what Yamamoto believes. And again, this gentleman is a Japanese politician of the Liberal Democratic Party. So I'm not too familiar with the Japanese kind of structures, but just wanted to share that. So you best believe that other countries are following suit as well. I know the Japanese in particular are a lot more open to innovating, and utilizing technology as well. So hopefully they will push, and they are one of the highest liquid assets in the world. Next, Anders Lundberg sharing this. So we have the guy from Coinbase, again, in charge of overseeing the U.S. banking system starting April 1st. We'll briefly cover that. This is huge. I know I've already covered this in many other channels, but I want to connect the dots here. Then we have the UN, the United Nations, saying they have to reduce remittance fees, these cross-border fees, to zero. All right, close to zero, if not. And again, XRP, less than a penny. Come on, guys. Next, he's kind of just making a joke here by Western Union. And of course, Ripple's already teamed up with MoneyGram again, kind of in second place, whereas Western Union has the dominant portion of that market share. And then he says, well, just waiting for what the excuse will be from the Bank of International Settlements will be saving the best for last. And it's funny because as soon as he said this, maybe the same day or, maybe the same time, we had the Bank of International Settlements actually put out a quarterly review for March 2020. So I'll just control find digital, just to quickly go here. Now let's hear what they have to say about central bank digital currencies. And this is very interesting as always. My computer's freezing. So anyways, right here. Central bank digital currencies have gained prominence in recent years in the broader debate on digital currencies. If a central bank were to decide to issue its own CBDC to general users, it would face several crucial technological design choices. The technology of retail central bank digital currency, again by this gentleman and this gentleman, identify a number of such design features, namely whether the central bank issues digital currencies directly or through delegation, whether settlement follows decentralized consensus or takes place on a centralized ledger. Those are great questions that, many people don't actually consider. All right, again, whether settlements, and keep in mind XRP is purely for settlements of cross-border, is a broad, an intermediary asset, that bridges two forms of value. You can send any type of tokenized value or IOU on top of the XRP ledger. It's all built in. All right, so whether it's decentralized consensus takes place on a centralized ledger, and then whether the central bank digital currency is account-based or token-based. This challenge is to design a digital currency that balances the credibility of direct claims on the central bank with the convenience of using payment intermediaries. Next, and just to go back on what XNEO was touching on, so we see Coinbase's chief legal officer resigns to oversee U.S. national banking system. Now, what I wanted to touch on right here is we can see Brooks has been designated as first deputy comptroller, the agency's second highest position by, of course, none other than Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin. And Steven Mnuchin, again, another one of Trump's right-hand men. So Brooks will also serve as the OCC's chief operating officer effective April 1st. Interesting, guys. So again, familiar with years of an understanding of the digital framework. It's a lot of people's belief that, of course, as the Fed has already expressed, going digital with the US dollar, we would not be surprised to see this rolled out either this year or in the next several years. And a lot of these countries are following suit. And don't be fooled. I know they're talking about, going and creating a digital currency. This has been in talks for years, so do not be fooled. There's always a greater narrative at hand. Now, next, tied into also, again, his tweet, now talking about the UN, the United Nations. So right here, shared by XRP_Stort must follow. So this is a quote from this gentleman, I believe. What was his first name? Right here, Antonio Guterres, Guterres, I believe, shared by Crypto Addy. She had a great video sharing the United Nations speech, and he's actually a Secretary General to G20 banks, and he basically, to G20 banks, again, it was just a speech for them specifically, talking about reducing the cost of connectivity, and basically, as we can see here in this quote, remittances are a lifeline now. Costs to move money are required to go as close to zero as possible. What does XRP solve? Cross-border payments is their first thing that they are attacking. This is all remittance payments. They're one of the only institutional companies utilizing blockchain infrastructure between, Mexican peso and the Philippine peso with USD corridors. So right here, his quote, "For the United Nations to deliver better on our mandate in the digital age, we need to embrace technologies like blockchain that can help accelerate the achievement of sustainable development goals." Hand in hand with what Spiro was sharing in my previous video, talking about Davos at the World Economic Forum, all about, again, sustainable development goals, green energy, basically more conservation, guys, conservative efforts. It is right in front of us this entire time. Again, we know Bitcoin, if you guys believe it's a store of value and will explode, good for you. I personally do not believe the upside is that high unless it's, manipulated and crashed entirely. But that's just my belief. I wish all of you well in the digital asset space. But personally, I think that from a payments perspective, XRP is best positioned today to solve the payments problem. And what I want to emphasize is a lot of you are saying this. People are just saying, well, XRP's at 15 cents. This price is this. It doesn't matter. And I've seen a lot of people say this. I've read, researched, 3 to 4 hours per day for 3 to 3.5 years. And again, this gentleman, Voxman XRP, even said this. He goes, if you don't understand the relationship between Ripple, R3, one of the biggest banking consortiums, XRP, the digital asset, Corda, which is the open source platform on R3, or SBI, basically a behemoth in Japan, etc., you have some catching up to do, because sharing all of this information in a short little video, I can't. There's just too much. You truly have to go and do your own research. Investing isn't easy, and it takes way more time and patience than 99% are willing to put forth. And another thing that I saw was Jim Hyatt just sharing this, and some negative XRP community members are just looking at the price and, taking their anger out on Twitter and asking questions instead of doing their own research. And that's extremely frustrating to me. But guys, Jim Hyatt said this, and I love this. He said, "How do I fit 2 years of research into a Twitter box with the, limited characters?" Your answer, you answer that, and I'll answer your question. That's my belief. So again, Guterres also made this point again, exclusively to Forbes. This is happening a lot sooner than we realize. All right, next up, just wanted to emphasize this, guys. So we got CNBC. The Fed announces they will conduct $1 trillion per day in repo operations for the rest of March. Look at this gentleman. He's at home. Just again, fear. Everyone's afraid. one of the best ways to motivate people for change. It's just kind of funny to me, but it was
$1 trillion of repo every day for the rest of the month.
And also there was a video, who showed it? I don't know if it was Brad Kimes, Digital Asset Investor, Cryptopolis, or Mr. B, XRP, all must follows, by the way. But they literally showed the gentleman at the Fed saying that they can print infinitely. Now, another good point I want to emphasize and hammer home is Digital Asset Investor made a great point about the Fed printing. He said, with the Fed just announcing that they can print infinitely for as long as possible to provide the liquidity and money for banks. And, while this crash is occurring, you all really think that the Federal Reserve is printing this much money per day infinitely with no end game in sight? Do you wholeheartedly believe that they have not learned from the 2008 crisis, the global liquidity crisis? We already know one of the digital assets that is best positioned to solve this issue between interbank settlements. Guys, I'm telling you, I would literally bet my reputation on it. And I'm not going to say it's just all about XRP. What I'm saying is it has to do with a multitude of things, and maybe we only know 1% of it and are lucky enough to invest in an open source protocol. What I'm saying is the Fed, without a doubt, the Fed, the administration, other countries, the UN, I can assure you, they know what they are doing this time. All right, there might be other things that were unexpected factors of this, but they are using everything and milking it to their advantage. One quote I also want to share is by Spiro. This is David Rockefeller speaking at the United Nations Business Conference in '94. He said, "We're on the verge of a global transformation." And of course, this is kind of during the internet era. "All we need is the right major crisis, and the nations will accept this new world order." Right? So I know this terminology is a little... people kind of get uncomfortable. But again, NWO, New World Order, always an interesting term. But again, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. Right here, Cryptopolis, even sharing this. In the span of less than 2 weeks, we've gone from approximately $30 billion a day in repurchases to $1 trillion a day. And then we can see the Treasury repurchases today alone. It is just absolutely fascinating. Now, one thing I want to finish up is this, guys. I saw this and I found it interesting, is the mindset between wealthy people and poor people. And it's not about money. It is about the mindset of abundance, or living in fear and focusing on what you don't have, or being happy with what you want or actually have. So again, wealthy people, are looking at this opportunity. They're looking at this market crash as an opportunity. Which assets are discounted that I can buy? And I know it's been that way for a long time. Same thing with metals. And the poor people, the people that are, victims, they want to blame other people. They don't take responsibility. They're not seeing opportunities in anything. They see everything as a chore. They say, oh, which toilet paper should I buy? The wealthy people are saying, well, the markets will recover from this point. Let's invest in assets or markets that have been in several year bear markets and suppressed, like metals and digital assets. Poor people, oh no, the market's going to die. We're going to lose money, focusing on lack and losing. Wealthy people, I see opportunity. Poor people, I am scared. So again, this is how the game is played. I'm actually going to share some interesting things in the next video. Don't want this to run too long because I know a lot of people are newcomers, just kind of surfing the web. But again, guys, appreciate all of you. Be sure to subscribe if you have not already. Hit that bell icon so you know when I upload. Hit that like button and share this around if you found it interesting. And I will see you in the next one.